After the break, we'll be back with part 2 of the interview with Rex Vanstone. You was in Perry, and I know you stood Rocket Robin and Flyover for a short period of time there. A Flyover, sorry. And then you was it in the 70s you left, or when did you? How long did you left the? You know, it was always a lovely place for foals early in the year, but then it gets dry and
it was too dry at the wrong time. Like foals came September, October, November.
Starting to dry.
The season finished there, so. And Flyover, to give him a chance, and myself a chance. I was in a bit of trouble at the time with the injury or two. I came down here and bought the property at Mount Crawford, which was in a rain. It did rain down there.
Well, that injury was further worsened by the fact that someone told me that at 51 years of age, you were silly enough to put football boots on and have a game for someone.
That was my last game. But the injury wasn't that. That was from. In my spare time when I wasn't training horses and running the farm, I used to do a bit of shearing, like about 8,000 or 10,000 a year.
No, that's no good. So you went from what, 2,000 or how many acres?
About 3,000 or 4,000.
And you went down to
400 or something.
Yeah, so that was the old Mount Crawford. You went past the polo ground to get there, didn't you? It was in amongst the forest, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
So how many acres was that?
I think we had 400 or something.
Okay.
But that's where I trained my horses on we had a big enough area of the polo ground. And I got the council grader, conned him into running a track around for me.
Con's not the word. Encouraged him to assist you.
Yeah. And
then he owned a horse straight away.
That's right.
I can remember going down there with Robbie Bryan, who was a very, very good young lad with horses.
Robbie was...
Did he work with you for a while?
A big part of things. He was at a loose end in Perry. He was related to Peter Thompson. And... I think it probably would have been Tom O said, well, perhaps, give Robbie a job, see how he goes, because he wasn't doing anything. And he came and worked for me, 99% just with the horses, not a farm or anything. Hated sheep, most stupid thing he'd ever heard of. And then he also came down here with me. When I came down here, he came down with me.
Okay.
He was with me for quite a few years, Robbie. Really dedicated horseman.
He was a very, very good horseman. So,
yeah, he was very good.
So how long? When were you there? 77.
77.
And when did you sell out from there?
About 2003 or 4. A couple of years after Margaret died.
Okay, 2003 or 4. So
just got a bit much for me.
So you don't have any horses at the moment?
Not at the moment, no.
Now tell us about these colours behind us. I can see there. I believe you can tell that they're not Australian because they're the full outfit.
Combination overalls.
Yeah, the combination overalls. So you got them made in America, obviously.
I did. Yeah.
Have they ever been worn?
Oh yeah, I drove. Not very much because I got them towards the end of my so-called career, and I did wear them a few times. But they were a good idea. Really, you didn't have to.
It's like just
tucking your shirt in. So it's good.
Yeah, and it's probably you haven't got a shirt flapping around or anything like that.
Bought my jacket. And
you got your jacket. Yeah. So how did you get them colours? Because we all got colours. I've got colours. A lot of people are trying to get rid of them and just want drivers' colours, which is fine for the punting. But certainly everybody knows them colours.
They do. In '57, a few other lads and myself took a trip to West Australia. Drove over there. It was at the time when Venture. Raced in the Inter Dominion.
Running Venture, yep.
Yeah, and we went over to it, and I had a little bit of a knowledge with harness racing horses at the time, but not a great deal. But my favourite horse was Caduceus, and he was the stumbling block for Radiant Venture at those championships. He was the favourite for it, and his colours were black with a red and white check. And I thought, I don't want black, so I just changed it to blue and kept them like that. And they finished up probably winning 200 or 300 races.
So Digger Connor was obviously, one of the best ever, but then there was Bill, which is I
had the best you could get.
But Bill, I can remember, had a horse called Deep Secret. He was by Deep Adios. Bill Connor.
Yeah.
He had a horse called Deep Secret Deep Adios out of Dillax. It was one of E.E. Lang and Sons at Georgetown's breed. He was a magnificent animal.
The yearling sales, I suppose.
I think he may have, yeah. And I reckon, I'm not sure, but I reckon Keith Bennett drove him for him once.
Yeah.
Did he drive any for you, Keith?
A couple, yeah. He drove, like I said, one at Victor Harbour for me that...
What happened there?
I went to put the tailgate of the float up after I'd unloaded and done me back in and I'd job to walk. So
you get workers' comp now.
Yeah. And the first
Those days you're going to get someone
to walk past me and said, "Oh, what's your problem?" And I said, "Oh, I've got a bit of a problem." And it was Keith Bennett. And I said, "Can you drive this horse for me?" And he said, "Oh, yeah."
He said, "Can it win?" You said, "Yes." He said, "Hold on."
And got the money.
He got the money, Keith. Yeah, we won't say his nickname.
No.
So I know you've had some awards. I think you had when you stood the stallions at... What did you call the place down at Mount Crawford? What was it called?
Real Warrior
State,
That
yeah.
was the name of the property when I got there. And I thought afterwards, a couple of people said, how would it have got that name? And I thought, a lot of these names of places are Aboriginal names. I thought, I think it's Aboriginal for bloody cold place.
Well, after coming from up our way.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know you had an award there for meritorious service to the stud industry, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I also know that I think you were made an award here at the club here for the Hall of Fame, which I believe the records, I tried to do a bit of investigation in it when we did Wavell and nobody can find the records, so that's a bit sad because there's obviously, you may know who's in it, but...
I don't, and that's something I think that the club or somebody ought to put up a bit because there was some really, the top, I was really humbled to be in that with the likes of maybe Kevy Brook and Dick Webster and those top type of people. It was a really honour to get that award. I sort of wonder whether I deserved it, but I'd had a fair go at most things in the thing.
I don't think people realise, Rex, how important South Australian harness racing. It's not great now. We're struggling, but back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I mean, E. Murdoch and Sons at Waruka used to breed some of the best in Australia.
Floyd Brooks,
you know, E. Lang and Son, Don and the boys, and the people we had here as horsemen. You go through them all. Your Albie Holdens, your Bill Shins, your Wally Bowyers. And then the next year, and now we talk about, you know, some of the drivers we've had here that have gone on to Western Australia, like Chris Lewis, who's I know a friend of yours, and you get people like go to Victoria and you look at probably some of the best drivers there is Greg Sugars and Jeffrey Webster.
Yeah.
And people don't know, and Lance Justice, how successful he is, and John with, you know, 200 minutes.
Yes, we had.
And yet people don't realise what a but we're always going to be a breeding ground for people, both horses and people, because they need to go to the big smoke, which is the big smokes obviously in the state.
Of our footballers.
Yeah.
The Victorians was the pinnacle, and our top footballers finished up going there. Same with our trotting fraternity.
So overall, you've had a pretty good life. You've had a lovely wife who was a very, very smart lady with a horse. She could tell you the breeding of just about every horse that was there. You got 3 children, haven't you? Bronwyn, Hayden, and Neil.
Exactly, and all doing pretty well.
All doing pretty well.
And grandkids the same. They're fired up now.
They got a bit of fire in them, like Robin, or
yeah, a bit.
Yeah. So Bronwyn, obviously she was the one that followed the horses more than the boys. The boys were more.
Yeah, well, they
went up the river and lived, didn't they?
Exactly. Yeah, I probably bought a property up there, and they sort of didn't. There wasn't enough with the stud thing for them to take
go
work
on
there.
Yeah.
So they branched out themselves and done all right.
So you don't have any horse at the moment. You're living in the Barossa or near the Barossa?
In the Barossa, yeah. And I did have one other. Somebody said to me something. I got conned into or encouraged into.
Encouraged is a word, not conned.
Encouraged into going into a horse with Jamie, and it happened to be a trotter.
Well, that's your. For those who don't know, that's your ex-son-in-law, Jamie Braidwood.
Yeah, still a good friend.
Yeah. He's a good judge of horse too.
Oh, he is, yeah. And he encouraged me to go in a horse with him, a trotter, called Framework Salute. And I said, oh.
Well, that wasn't that long ago.
No, it's not. And I said, no, I don't want to be in that. Anyway, he conned me in and he said, well, you let me, use the colours, your colours, so you ought to go. Anyhow, he put me in it. First up, go to Strathalbyn. Away they go. It was a nice horse and could trot sometimes. And the way they go, went about 100 yards and broke. Got going again, went a bit and broke again. Coming up the straight the last time, he come charging up and said, oh, how good's this? And I thought, Jamie said, I can't understand that. I said, well, that's the reason why I never ever had a trotter, Jamie.
Oh, well, I've got one at the moment. I've had a couple.
You get a good one. Right.
Oh, well, they're like anything, aren't they? What do you think of the industry at the moment? I mean, we're struggling, and it's never going to get back to the golden era because it's all a television product now, and you've got to be, when you went to the trots, whether it be you or your wife or the kids, and Laurie Brook, that was the judge of one year. The kids would go to the trots. These days, they go to the trots. The kids don't go to the trots. They go and watch something else. Right. We're never going to get back to the Hallican days.
I don't know where it's going to finish. It's pretty sad at the moment. It's something that you were. It was right up front for you. It was just about your life for a fair while, and then it
was pretty cool at one stage, but it's not front of house anymore.
No, it's not.
But it's still a fantastic industry, and
apart from those 3 or 4 half dozen horses we've spoke about, we had quite a lot of others that were.
How many winners would you have had? You would have had hundreds, wouldn't you? Really? I can remember, we were talking before, Almond Blossom was one that I think I named for her, and she was a beautiful mare. She's thrown a nice horse, and each breed was always a winner.
Going. Yeah. I think between 300 and 400.
Yeah, really?
And I think there was possibly about 48 or 49 individual winners we had in the time we were having them. So.
Now, just one I was going to ask you about was, I think you briefly mentioned about Bachelors Joy. Did you drive her to win? Was that in Victoria?
The showgrounds, yeah.
So, how did you get the drive on that? Because you owned it, or because Bill was?
No, I owned it. I also trained it too, but at the time I'd sent it down to Bill, and I don't think he had raced it anywhere, but he was down as the trainer. But I had trained her up to him and nominated her in the showgrounds in Melbourne, and I drove her. That was my. No, I had driven Real Warrior Chief. I'd had one drive before on Real Warrior Chief, and he won. And then this night with Bachelors Joy, I'll never forget it. In the run, she was about 3-4 back on the outside, and heading to the bell, chap on the inside of me said, "If you want to win this, you better get going." And it was Gordon Rothacker.
All right.
You better listen to him. Do what he said. So she won easy. And about a month after we came home from there, Margaret came home from Perry and had a parcel for me. She said, "There's a parcel here for you." It was from Bill Collins, and at the time they used to, same as they have best player of the week for playing footy, they used to have drive of the night, and I don't know, but I got a quote.
What was it?
Oh, box of cigars. Willem 2, and they say, "Willem who? Willem 2s." See, so that was a plus.
To do these days, like I can remember yourself and even like Bob Gale from Crystal Brook with Star Plebe, drove all the way from Crystal Brook to the showgrounds and win and come home again. You don't see that anymore. The competition's gone to another level. It's too hard. But in those days, you'd do that and think nothing of it.
Not a thing. I'd leave home at say 4 o'clock on a Friday morning, come to town, pick another horse up or whatever. The way Bill and I'd go. Head to Melbourne on Friday, race there Saturday night,
come back.
Be back at Butlers Bridge Sunday night.
Well, I know we could talk for hours, and I'm not allowed to do that. So
you're pretty good at it.
Look, it's wonderful talking to you, Rex, and you've been an ornament to the industry. You've had people say you're lucky. You're not lucky. You've had a good breed. You had a wife that was just a genius at getting horses, and obviously got that from her mother. You was mixed up with the nicest people and the nicest horses in South Australia, and it's a pleasure having you on here today.
They used to say, and probably still do, keep yourself in the best company and your horses in the worst. So, but no, I appreciate it, Gary.
Yep. All right.
I've enjoyed the time. Now it's back to my last sport on the list, and that's lawn bowling.
Oh, lawn bowls. That's the end of the. We can't talk about that.
No.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rex. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.